This would be happening if they had just punished the Confederate Army like they were supposed to. Since America didn't see fit to punish those Confederate generals and soldiers like traitors like they should have, they gave space for certain groups to feel like they had a valid space within American society. I don't think we would have had the Klan. I don't think we would have had Jim Crow. I don't think we would have had as much institutional racism. Desegregation probably would have gone through a whole lot sooner. And this is how I know when people talk about the Civil War, it was not about freeing the slaves. Because if it was really about freeing the slaves, then they would have cleared out the infrastructure that allowed it to exist for so long. They would have outlawed the Confederate flag. Any Confederate generals' names would not be on all these forts and army bases. The only mention of the Confederacy would have been in history books to let people know this is what happens when you betray your country. It's like removing cancer. If you're going to try to get rid of cancer, you have to get rid of every single cell. Otherwise, it's going to spread again. Because the only way this nation will survive is if we handle racism. If we do not get it out of our system, this is going to happen again and again until this nation completely crumbles.
Nothing but facts. We did nothing to make sure this shit never happens again. So right after the Civil War, it was a perfect time to give Black Americans reparations such as land, wealth, freedom, and possibly respect. Well, it didn't happen really. Instead of properly punishing or executing Confederate leader voices, many of them after the Civil War, Loki went back to their normal lives like nothing happened. So big names like Alexander Stephens, who is a U.S. congressional representative and vice president of Confederate States of America, he held both of these positions. Then right after the Civil War ended, he still remained to be in this very high position, a very vital role in U.S. politics, obviously, right after the Civil War. So nothing happened. It's just another Tuesday for this man who was a voice advocate for slavery. On the bright side, Abraham Lincoln was a decent person who abolished slavery. However, he was an abolitionist, as anyone should do, call out slavery and ban it as it's intrinsically evil. But everyone evolves the more they listen and learn. In his final speech, he mentioned that black men should get the right to vote. Now, it's not with black women, obviously, or women in general, but it's progress still. However, after Lincoln got assassinated, we got a Confederate sympathizer, Andrew Johnson, who basically pardons many of these former Confederate soldiers, generals, etc., into integrating with the Union, start becoming loyal. And this transition just seems questionable because not a lot of harsh punishment really happened. And there's this some sensation where, oh, it's okay, guys, you're just having a bad day, you just join us, forget about what happened, slavery, it's fine, man, people change. This is where I think justice just comes crashing down. The amount of people that are living in the past who missed the glory days of the Confederate States of America, the amount of people who think their flag resembles their heritage, even though that's anachronism, which means it's a completely different time period that does not resemble your ancestors. It resembles hate, slavery. I mean, you know the flag that I'm talking about. The fact that our country still has traitor statues up, the Confederate statues, and sadly, people who think like them. As you can see in the video, the guy said if we punish them properly, the Confederates, if we punish them properly, we would have not had Jim Crow, the Klan, institutional racism, and the desegregation could have happened a lot sooner. If Civil War was really about freeing the slaves, then we would have put into question about eliminating the infrastructure that caused this to exist, the Confederacy. So yeah, it did not happen, and the damage has been done already. Jim Crow, segregation, redlining Black Americans' wealth, and just maximizing hatred on these people happened instead, for another century at least. Now, I think the Black American community is the strongest in terms of fighting injustices, combating hatred, and promoting civil rights. However, I think they do struggle still with outside of their community. Of course, racism, bigots are still around, but also within their community, there's a lot of people that are fighting discrepancies, dissent, um, against another, you know what I mean? And I think this is just one scary hell loop, and it's something, a loop that's going to keep going on when they keep finding peace or solution. Now, history is wiser than you think. It's not just etiology, but it's full of lessons we must learn from. Especially US political history, one of the most complex, complicated, and pretty much the most fucking annoyingest thing you would have ever heard of or learned. It's also the most hypocritical, stupidest shit you ever heard. I mean, nothing is fair. Nothing is treated fair. There's always some bullshit. There's always some problem. And I'm sure it's gonna get you mad. However, there's one thing that I want to put into this video is that the US political history should be taken into account as something the whole world must learn from, must not do what happened in this country. You see, the Nazis were inspired by the US laws, Jim Crow, anti miscegenation, uh, eugenics, and manifest destiny, and the treatment of Native Americans. Didn't know that, huh? If that's familiar to you.